Part 4, Chapter 20 of Short History of the Christian Church by John Fletcher Hurst. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 20, French Mysticism and Flemish Jansenism. Modern mysticism in the Roman Catholic Church arose in the first half of the 17th century. It was a reaction against the strong military policy which prevailed. It represented a large number of devout Roman Catholics who saw in the outward strifes a disturbance of the religious life. St. Francis of Sales, who died in 1622, was Bishop of Geneva. He was a man of noble simplicity of character, but withal was practical, and succeeded in winning many Protestants to Romanism. His methods, it must be confessed, were not always the most scrupulous. In his Philotheia he dwells on the vanity of the world, and contends for the absorption of the soul in God. A strong tendency towards mysticism, similar to that which arose in Spain before the Reformation, again developed in that country. It crystallized into an order, the Alumbrados, or Illuminated. The leader of the Spanish mystics was Michael Molinos of Saragossa, who after 1669 lived in Rome and died in 1696. He was an object of suspicion by the Jesuits, and was condemned to perpetual confinement in a monastery. His Spiritual Guide of Souls contained his chief opinions. His followers were called Quietists. Antoinette Bourignon of France adopted the fervid theosophic opinions of the Spanish mystics. Her opinions found great favor in Holland and Germany. Peter Poiret followed the same line. Madame Guyon was the leading French Quietist. She died in 1717. She held that the human soul which loves God must be totally absorbed in him and have no will of its own. She traveled in various countries and found favor with many cultivated circles. She was persecuted in France, and bore all trials with cheerful and calm resignation. She did not withdraw from the Roman Catholic Church, but was charged with heresy. Fenelon defended her against this charge, and for his pains was condemned by the Pope. Bossuet represented the interests of the Church. The purity of Madame Guyon's life, her patience in trial, and her cultivated manners gained the confidence of the multitudes. There are still traces in various parts of Europe of her profound influence in favor of a deep spiritual life. Cornelius Jansen, Bishop of Ypern, in the Netherlands, died 1638, was a man of profound learning and pure life. He devoted himself to the study of Augustine, and in a posthumous work, the Augustines, he brought the doctrines of Augustine into a complete and strong system. He endorsed the doctrines of that father to the fullest extent. When the book appeared, it was seen that it was in harmony with the views of Calvin. That was enough to condemn it, and all who should accept its teachings. Jean Duvergier de Anran and Antony Arnold took up the Jansenist cause, while the Jesuits championed the opposition to it. Arnold had been an ornament of the Sorbonne, but was driven out. He went to live with his sister Angelica, who was the abbess of Port Royal, a Cistercian nunnery near Paris. She was a woman of thorough piety and of great natural ability, and shared her brother's views. Port Royal now became the great Jansenist centre. People of learning and piety flocked thither from many parts of Europe. It was a stronghold, not of Augustinism simply, but of devout piety and consecrated learning. The most profound spirit developed by the Jansenist group was Blaise Pascal. He left the immediate points at issue between the Jansenists and the main body of Romanism, and addressed himself to an exposure of the whole Jesuit system. He assumed the name Louis de Montalte, and in his Provincial Letters presented the most stinging and thorough attack which Jesuitism had ever sustained. The work was read widely. The Jesuits influenced the Pope to issue a condemnatory decree, which was done a.d. 1656. The result was an order of both the French king and the pope that all ecclesiastics in France, and all nuns as well, must acknowledge the condemnation of Jansenism. All who proved rebellious were compelled to leave the country. They fled to Holland, and kept up their organization, and developed a retired church life. The institution of Port Royal was suppressed in 1709. The Holland community consists of an archbishop of Utrecht, 25 parishes, and 30 clergy. They send their elections to the Roman See for acknowledgment, but they receive no recognition from the pope. They occupy a singular position midway between Romanism and Protestantism. They received unexpected support from the old Catholic defection, to which they gave sanction by consecrating a bishop. End of chapter 20.